Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Secretary, thank you for being here again to talk about this tax reform legislation that has had an incredibly beneficial impact, frankly, exceeded expectations, I think it's fair to say. We appreciate your working with us on it. And so many of the aspects of this tax reform bill, as you know, had been bipartisan previously, including the changes on the international side that create enormous opportunities for growth. We had a system, of course, where jobs and investment were incentivized to go overseas, which is crazy, made no sense. And now we see announcements of companies coming back to the United States for their production. We see companies that are repatriating some of the $2 or $3 trillion that's been parked overseas back to this country to invest. And so I think this is something that, we talked about a lot in a nonpartisan setting prior to the tax bill coming up, and then it became more partisan as it came to the floor. But we have to remember that this tax code that previously was in place made no sense for Ohio workers and American workers. There are two things we focused on. One was providing direct relief to American families, and that's through the tax relief, including the middle-class families in Ohio who are now benefiting. The second was on the business side. And on the individual side, as Americans look at their paychecks, even this Friday, many of them are going to see that their withholding has changed, right? So they are not seeing as much money going to Uncle Sam, more money in their pockets. Can you tell us what percentage of American workers are likely to see their withholding changed in a way that helps them? In other words, that less is coming out of their paycheck every couple weeks or every month.
We anticipate it'll be about 90% of Americans.
90%?
Yes.
90%. I want to thank you and the IRS for moving quickly with regard to the withholding tables so that employers can begin immediately to do that. My sense is it's already happening because I'm hearing from my constituents. This morning I had a coffee. I heard from constituents on it. I've had a lot of calls and emails to my office on it just in the last week. John in Fairfield, Ohio, says he received an additional $51 in his paycheck. He was surprised because he was told by some people that there was going to be no relief for him, and there is. Carl from Salineville called in. He's pleased to see $60 every other week coming in. Earlier this month, another Ohioan called my office to say when he opened his first paycheck since the law had taken effect, he was thrilled to see an additional $300 there. He said those $300 are going to be used for him to help cover the car payments for his two daughters. So it's happening. When do you expect that all that 90% of American workers are going to see that in their paychecks? Will that happen by the end of this month?
Yes, we believe that's the case.
And you've told the IRS to send these tables out. You've also told employers that they've got to go ahead and make these withholding changes within the next few weeks. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, and we're very pleased with the work that the IRS is doing on already implementing the Act.
Of course, in addition to tax cuts that are going directly to these families, because of the changes on the business side, the international side, I talked about some of the pro-growth elements. We're seeing companies taking these savings and investing them back into their plant and equipment and making their companies more productive. All the economists I talk to say that productivity in the economy is one of the reasons we've had this anemic growth. We've had such low growth, not just over the past several years, but really over the past decade and a half with no real increase in wages. Now we're seeing that for the first time. More than 350 companies have now made decisions to invest in equipment, buildings, and employees. Over 4 million Americans are now receiving tax reform bonuses, raises, or increases to their benefits. That's amazing. And let me just ask you, had you expected to have that much good news about the effects of the tax bill this soon?
No, we were very pleasantly surprised by those announcements.
Let me ask you about some of the smaller business elements here. Yes, Walmart is paying people more. They're raising their minimum wage, their entry level. Walmart's the biggest employer in the state of Ohio, and probably most of the states represented around this dais. That's important. J.P. Morgan is adding 400 new branches and adding 4,000 new jobs. They're our third biggest employer in Ohio. Apple's paying $38 billion to repatriate its overseas earnings. Hundreds of billions of dollars coming back here. $30 billion in capital expenditures right now in America, they say, related to the tax bill. So a lot of great news from larger businesses. But how about the smaller businesses? What are you hearing from them? I've been to four in Ohio, all of whom are investing in their people, investing in their, again, technology and modernization of their plants to make their workers more productive. What are you hearing from smaller businesses?
We're hearing the good news as well. from many small business owners that we've either listened to or visited. We're getting the same response about how they can invest back into their business and that they're passing on wage increases.
National Federation of Independent Businesses says that small business optimism is at record levels right now, and they relate that directly to the tax legislation. I do have some questions for the record for you on the production tax credit for refined coal facilities, also something on the international side. Won't surprise you. I want to make sure that the CFC net earnings calculation is done properly. I'll submit those for the record. I thank you for being here, and again, congratulations on helping us put together a tax bill that's helping the people I represent.